Okay. Hello, Dennis. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks. What about you?
Yes, very well, thank you. Very excited. So I guess for everybody out there, this is a joint Twitter space between Cyfrin and Areta. So obviously, I'll kind of give myself a brief introduction. So I am the CSO here at Cyfrin. I deal with our private audit side of the business, our education side of the business on Updraft, and also a lot of our tooling and other parts of, I suppose the new things that we're working on, really. So, but yeah, Dennis, love to hear like a little bit about your background and what you do at Areta, for the people out there.
Yeah, sure. Happy to share. So, Areta is a digital assets advisory firm, and we operate in two different divisions. We have the investment banking side, where we advise founders of like selling their company, or if you are a founder and want to grow via acquisitions, we advise on this as well as on secondaries and capital raises. That's not where I work. I work on the on-chain side, where we work with DAOs and foundations on strategic initiatives and also builder growth programs, and in particular on like security marketplaces. And this is also why we talk here today. What we actually found out when we interviewed a couple of builders was that security and in particular smart contract audits is like a big hurdle, right? From like development to production. So you have like a rather fragmented space of audit providers, different qualities, different fees. As a founder, typically also you don't even know what you're looking for. We saw that this as like a, first of all, like as a business opportunity for us, but also as like a security challenge for ecosystems. So we came up with this marketplace that we launched first at Arbitrum last year and then expanded to Uniswap and other ecosystems this year. And maybe to give some like stats, it's actually pretty interesting because we achieve like 10 to 12 offers per project for different security services. There are cost savings of average 30%. We're building out this, and this is also where I'm mostly working on at the moment. My personal background is I used to be a lawyer, actually, something very, very different, maybe similar to auditors somehow, but like different to the crypto space. And I first entered crypto also with an exploit, actually, because in 2016, when I was working in M&A, I found out about the DAO and thought it was like the most interesting ever. Right. But yeah, I mean, all know how it ended. So this was like my first crypto experience, and also didn't last too long.
I don't think you'll be alone in that, Dennis, to
Yeah.
be completely honest. I suppose to give a little bit of context as well, obviously we work together on a lot of these initiatives with Areta for previously the ADPC through Arbitrum, Uniswap, etc. And yeah, you're doing amazing work. And I think one of the things that we really noticed was how you've managed to streamline the process, because you're completely spot on when you're saying about the issues for founders in particular. It is very hard to navigate and understand, who are the best providers for this particular code base? Where does their experience lie? Is this too high pricing wise? And I do think, as an industry, we've almost fallen into a trap of just kind of like quoting on vibes, right? And that doesn't really work. We need to have an actual strategic approach to this, and to see the programs that you've implemented and getting everybody together so that we can do so has been amazing for us, and we're extremely appreciative of it, because I think one of the big problems as well is it's very, very generous of a lot of these protocols and chains to offer out security funds, right? And we really appreciate the fact that they're trying to grow the ecosystem, in the right way. And I think for everyone involved, if quotes get out of hand, there's not proper due diligence put in place by the security firms, the people who are providing the protocols are up and coming with these subsidies will turn around and say, look, this isn't worth it for us, because the process is so messy and there's all these different, as I said, like minefields that we can't navigate. So to have you guys there doing that has been like a massive breath of fresh air, and we absolutely love the work that you're doing. So yeah, as I said, really, really great to be on with you today. I think from our
it. Thanks.
No, not at all. Not at all. And I think that just to run into a couple of questions really is, from your perspective, working with major chains and protocols, what's your assessment of Web3 security today? Do you think we're actually making progress or going backwards? And what do you think sort of the challenges that we face are from your perspective, working in such a wide range of ecosystems?
Sure. So I think we definitely make progress, and in particular in smart contract audits and security. And we also published a report recently where you could see that actually the exploit numbers in this area are going down. It's like a downward trend. However, the threat landscape is also evolving, and it's just like moving from this area to different ones, right? So front-end attacks, or maybe stolen or compromised keys are maybe like the next barrier. So it's not that the danger is somehow away. It's just like moved. However, we're working with kind of like a bigger bunch of ecosystems together, so we can see that the awareness definitely is growing. Maybe the execution on this awareness is still lacking a little bit behind. So there's some kind of gap between those two things. However, I'm pretty confident that this gap also closes like faster and faster, right? If we look at our experience, so we launched with Arbitrum, I believe last autumn, was like the security subsidy fund, which was like the first kind of its kind back then. Then we launched with Uniswap, I believe in January or February of this year, where we had first like a pilot program with 2 cohorts and like a standalone $1 million fund to subsidize audits. This now got expanded massively. So we have now monthly cohort intake. We just implemented marketplaces for Sonium and Scroll. We have 3 more ecosystems that will launch in the next 10 days. I cannot say like who it is, but like will be like big names, And then we have like plenty more ecosystems coming up in the following weeks. So the pace is like definitely accelerating, and it's like an exciting shift. However, we also always must make sure that we're not like lagging behind, So we always like should now that we, I think, are pretty good in smart contract audits, maybe also expand our view also a little bit and include other services and other like subsidizable products in those markets and subsidy funds as well. But yeah, this is like my view. Curious to see like how you see it. I mean, as an auditor, you probably have also like a different perspective than me.
It's a really interesting question. I think, look, we're definitely making progress. I think that is on the smart contract side. I think that's evident to see. But at the same time, I mean, there's always something going on, right? And I think we need to keep improving as an industry to ensure, like, we can't really rest on our laurels, because as soon as we think we've solved security, there's a huge hack that happens, and then it's like, oh, okay. From my side of things, I think education is really key, and that's why we started Cyfrin Updraft, right? Because there's things that we can do in a smart contract audit, mitigate vulnerabilities, but we can't be there with you the whole time. That's something that only education will solve, getting people to do things in the right way. Another big thing of this is obviously with like OPSEC, like with multi-sigs. This was seen massively with the Bybit hack as an example. And I mean, we've just released actually a course on wallet security to try and mitigate a lot of these issues. As Web3 becomes more mainstream, you're going to get, particularly in big institutions, traditional finance, capital markets, you're going to get people who aren't crypto native, right? So it's our job as security firms and as the wider Web3 to ensure that we're making things as easy and as secure as possible for them. I think, giving people the education so that they can do things like read call data, what happens when the safe UI goes down, the ability to be able to understand what they're signing, get people actually trained and certified to be signing things properly is very, very important. As I said, what we're seeing a lot of in the way that, say, like an institution works, as an example, is that what might not be the engineering team who are signing transactions, it might be the CFO, because that's how their structure works. They say, no, we can't have an engineering team or a developer signing these transactions. This needs to go through our CFO. Now, traditionally, that CFO won't be crypto native. So it's important that we can put the education in the hands of them to make sure that, they know what they're doing. I think another thing that is really, really important to us is making sure that security researchers are compensated properly for the work that they're doing, right? Particularly on like the bug bounty side, maybe even on like the contest side too, because all it takes is a bad experience for a security researcher, and they don't get paid what they were supposed to be paid, and before you know it, they're a white hat that has turned into a black hat because they know that the easiest thing for them to do is hack the protocol and then ask for 10%, right? And they will not have any law enforcement come after them, because that's usually the message that goes on chain is, look, if you return 90% of the funds, we'll give you 10% back. They're almost circumventing the bug bounty programs. And look, this is not definitely not a shot at anybody, because we're all trying to learn from this, and we love the work that everybody in the contest space is doing. But it's kind of on us as security that we have our own contest platform. So we're definitely not away from this, but we need to all kind of come together and work on this as a collective. And I think that's really important to ensure that, everybody's pulling or pushing, should I say, in the right direction. So that's really important. And that's kind of my take on security at the moment. And getting the right, becoming a bit more Web 2 in the way that we use tooling, etc. That's kind of my take on it.
No, makes absolute sense.
Awesome. So I suppose with obviously the following the news about the recent hacks with private key theft being sort of like a primary vector, what are you seeing as like the most critical issues threatening users in Web3 right now? I know we've kind of touched upon it in the previous points, but is there anything that's like really sort of coming out to you?
Yeah, if I think about this, it's probably with the rise of AI, things can get like hyper personalized very, very easy, right? So those more like amateur phishing emails and scams, they can get very, very sophisticated. And also they can be created very personalized in like a big scale without much effort from the attacker, right? So actually, if you think about this, the only thing that's needed is some kind of official communication, that like looks like how you, for instance, or me, we would text, on Telegram maybe in groups, right? Now we have this recording here, so they can even have some kind of clones of our voice or video or whatever, right? It becomes increasingly more easy to really social engineer those like exploits, or not exploits, but more like thefts of like private keys, or maybe signing some kind of transactions, and I think also for us as like crypto native people, it's even more easy to come to us because we communicate on Telegram, on Discord, sometimes in like, X DMs. So all like more like public spaces that also have this like rather close like chat style interface, right? So it's also easier to somehow mimic being a person that you're not, right? So somehow I think it moves a bit away from trying to break the code to trying to break you as a person, which is a lot easier, right? Just for normal social reasons, right? And as a matter of fact, it already had happened actually to us at Areta, that there was like, this like random Telegram account that had actually my picture on my of course like a different ad handle, but like the same name, and it's easy to mistake those things very quickly, as like being like a message from a colleague or something like that, right? So this is something for me that also will not go away, but rather the opposite, will become a lot more and a lot more sophisticated, because with AI improving, all of those maneuvers will also improve, and it's not in this development environment, but rather it's in this like social setting, which makes it a lot more difficult to also monitor as some kind of security service provider, right? If you look at the smart contract, you have your repo, right? That you'll check, but you cannot just like have like a look and at like your customers or clients' Telegram accounts, right? So it becomes a lot more the obligation and responsibility of each person to also have their maybe like private OPSEC, so to say, right?
That's actually a very good point. And actually, to kind of piggyback off that, I think, with AI as well, I think there's a lot of like the trend at the moment with the vibe coding, right? And then actually on top of that, you can obviously, there's a few tools out there that are AI auditors that people can see. And I think, again, this comes down to the education, particularly for new people entering the space. Now, people who are a bit longer in the tooth will realize that, the certain steps that you need to take before you launch on mainnet, what you need to do. But there's also like a temptation with like vibe coding to just vibe code something, get maybe like a AI auditor to then look at it and then launch it, which is obviously a huge issue. And even when you're, taking pieces of code and putting it into whatever AI like LLM you're using, that tends to hallucinate as well, right? From time to time. So before you know it, you could put something into the AI and it could come back with the wrong GitHub that you were looking to pull from, and with the wrong whatever, and they've hallucinated and it's a scam, essentially, GitHub, and then you're in serious trouble. So I do think that is something that we really need to focus on over the coming months. And I think that's going to be really important. And then another thing that really screams out to me is obviously something you mentioned as well, and that we're all on Telegram. There's some people are anonymous. This can cause issues too, because of obviously we've seen with like the Lazarus Group and North Korean hackers, hiring actually is a big issue, right? So you're hiring people into your organization who legitimately, from what they've sort of put forward to you, is one of the best developers that you can find, and then 6 months later all of your funds have gone because they have actually been a hacker from a state-sponsored run, basically. So I think that's something that we are actually trying to solve at Cyfrin. So as part of our updraft roadmap, we are actually releasing Cyfrin jobs, which will allow people to post their jobs, and then they will have to KYC the candidates before they can actually get the job. So that's something that we're also has been a concern for us, but something that we're looking to mediate.
Interesting. Yeah, sounds good.
Hopefully. If you were advising as well, like this is the next question, if you were advising like a project that came to you tomorrow, what would be your top 3 security recommendations? What do you really see that the teams consistently get wrong from obviously running so many of these programs?
So I think the first one would be to not delay your like security thinking, but rather start from day one with having security in mind, right? So there are already tools out there that you can use to check your code before you actually, conduct a proper audit, and just not treat it as something, to think about like one day before you want to deploy, but rather have this already back of your head and actually also like in the operations from day one. Second one would be, I think this is also the most important one. The second point I'm mentioning now would be not to treat it as some kind of like necessary evil, to get like the stamp and then you don't want to do it. And I think this comes also a bit from my background as a lawyer, because also like legal work is also typically something people would consider this is like, necessary evil to, I don't know, go to production or get a fundraise or sell your company. But you can, as a founder, also get quite a lot out of those audit processes. Not only the audit report as like a stamp, but just think about that all the auditors, how many code bases have they seen prior to yours, right? And also how many like business models that are also attached to this, right? How many like logic have they seen? So most likely you can learn more about your code if you communicate with the auditors than just take this as something you have to do and then forget about it. Also taking into consideration that audits are not cheap, right? So it makes sense for you as a founder to make and get like most out of it that's like possible, right? And in particular, if you're a founder or like a developer and you are fully immersed in the code, it's sometimes a bit more difficult to take a step back and have like the overall picture that like an auditor maybe has, like seeing the code from like like a bird's eye view for the first time. The third one for me would be that your audit is not the end of your security journey, right? Similar maybe to financial statements, like your annual accounts. It's just like your security status for one particular point in time, right? So things might change afterwards. There might be new threats coming. There might be some new code you introduce, so it makes sense to always be updated and maybe also check in with your auditor from time to time, right? And not to like miss out on like important developments or updates, but rather treat this as like one very important element in like the whole like security journey as a project.
Yeah, I couldn't have put it better myself, to be honest, Dennis. I think as well on the necessary evil side of things, I think I probably speak for all like security firms here, that we also need to get better, right? To change some people's opinions of how audits work, because I think there can be times where, and I'm sure there's probably people listening to this who have founded or started a protocol who have had a bad experience with an audit, right? Where they've sent a code base over, the auditors haven't been particularly responsive. They've not really taken the time to look at it properly. They haven't asked questions. They haven't done, basic things like a kickoff call, onboarding. So as well, from our side, it's really, really important that we don't make this feel like a tick box exercise. And we need to like really elucidate that this is super important and we will be treating it with such. We need to be treating it with that importance. So I do think as well, a lot of that relies on us. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot of improvements in this space, because, if you look at the top audit firms, your Guardians, your Open Zeppelins, Trail of Bits, Cantina, Sherlock, all of these, right? C4, like they are starting to, everyone's taking it, very, very seriously in how they approach the audit side of things. And I think the days of, and I won't ever name names, but I think the days of, sort of cowboy auditors as slowly, disappearing, but it's up to us to keep improving and making things better. and make sure that they do view us as like a really valuable part of their security journey. So, but yeah, I completely agree with all of the points that you laid out there, particularly on the security isn't just a one-time thing, right? I really like that with the financial statements. I think that's really good. So just as well, looking at, obviously we work together a lot. So I've read a lot of your market reports, which I would advise anybody to read. They're absolutely brilliant. But I would love it if you could just share a couple of insights about the trends that you are seeing based off of these reports, and also then like what the builders, founders, and researchers should be preparing for in the next sort of 6 to 12 months in your eyes.
Yeah, I mean, I think we actually talked about a lot of those things already. So maybe I will just give like the like high level key points again as like a little summary. So first of all, that like the attacking vectors are changing a little bit, from smart contract exploits more to all kinds of different like front end attacks, off chain attacks, some kind of like key compromises, phishing that is now easier with AI, right? This would be probably like one of the main takeaways. You have to have some kind of like a full stack security strategy, including also OPSEC. So the education that you already mentioned, Mark, would be like one of those like things, right? Like an important one. The second one for me would be that with AI, I think in the short term we will see more and faster attacks, right? So we briefly touched AI, but this doesn't stop at like having just like personalized like phishing messages. But you already mentioned, we have on like maybe someone indeed like vibe codes the whole smart contract, and I'm pretty sure you're also aware of those incidents in like Web 2 where then API keys were in like plain text on the GitHub, and this will happen, of course, for Web3 too. We have this like on the project side, and of course auditors can also use AI tools to maybe streamline things, but also hackers can also use it then again, right? Just think of like some kind of autonomous hacker agents, that just like scan like new deployments, and because it gets so easy to do it, it also makes then financially sense to exploit like maybe like very small deployments, because just like the barrier is so much lower and everything can be done so much faster, right? So I think in the short term there will be probably like more AI related attacks until like some kind of like countermeasures are taken. And then probably the third one is like maybe more like a positive, hopeful outlook would be that more ecosystems will prioritize security related programs, right? Like coming from those like grants, like those like classic grants that were given out initially for like spray and pray. You give like some kind of money to the project, but you don't really know what they will do with it, right? More to like more tailor-made programs, and there, like security related programs, just as like the bottleneck of projects, is something that I think we will see more and more. And yeah, we're actively working also on expanding our footprint there.
Yeah, and I guess the final thoughts from my side on that as well would be, I think it's really important that we do recognize the protocols chains who have put these subsidy funds in place, because it is doing a lot of good for the ecosystem as a whole on the security side. And it's also connecting people as well within these funds, which I think is actually kind of missed. So, even as a security firm, we may not, with the marketplace, whatever, we may, someone may decide, well, we're going to go with this security firm instead, but at least like we're all talking, we're all giving advice, we're all getting together and sharing knowledge, which again, I think is really, really important. And I think the work that the funds that you've mentioned, or the chains and protocols that you've mentioned, I think the work that they're doing is great, and I think it's really, we should celebrate that. And obviously the work that you guys are doing as well, because it's been, as I said in my opening statement, a breath of fresh air to work with you guys and have this structure in place with all the knowledge that you've got. So yeah, awesome.
Thanks, appreciate it.
I suppose we're kind of coming to the end of the space now, Dennis. Is there anything else you want to share with the listeners? I know you said there was a couple of other subsidy funds coming up, but won't be able to share that today. So where can they kind of like follow you, whether it's on Twitter, LinkedIn, just so that actually they can get all of the latest updates if you are a protocol, building on a specific chain, etc.?
Yeah, sure. So all of the updates on our security initiatives, they can be found on areta.market. This is our landing page for the security things that we do. And for more general information, this would be areta.io, which is our general website. One more thing maybe that I would like to say now would be that every project can just sign up on Areta Market. It's for free. Signing up is for free. Getting quotes is for free. And if you're a builder that needs an audit at some point, makes sense to get like a lot of audit quotes in just with like minimum effort. Happy to see you on the platform.
Yes, and I suppose then, final thing, we'll be very happy to see you on the platform as well from Cyfrin, and hopefully we'll be able to give some security advice and any security work that you need through those programs. So Dennis, absolute pleasure chatting with you today. Really appreciate all of your insights. As I said, massively appreciate all the work that you're doing at Areta, and look forward to continuing and working with you moving forward.
Likewise, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.